What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. It's my favorite time of year. Yes, Christmas, the holidays, all of those things are wonderful, but we're talking the best movies of the year. And normally, you just see the top 10 list, the best movies, and that video's coming. It's coming very soon. But first, because I love talking about good movies, I want to bring up and create a separate video for my honorable mentions of 2019. That's right, we're talking 25 all the way down to number 11. Then we're going to cut off. We're going to come back in the next couple of days, and I'm going to give you guys my top 10 movies of the year. But first, I need your comments down below. Maybe not your favorite movie of the year just yet, but what are some underrated films in 2019? Movies that you loved, maybe I haven't even seen. I'm in like the 220s, 230s right now on the year, still watching. There are a couple of movies that I haven't seen yet, and I just don't think I'm going to get to them in time to make this list. The real ones for me that have a chance of cracking this top 10 list: Little Women and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Once I see those two movies in those particular reviews, I will be placing them in my 2019 list in those respective videos. So you will see where they go in those videos. But first, I got to give you guys my honorable mentions. But for every honorable mentions list, there's honorable mentions. For the honorable mentions, I just like talking movies. That's what this is about. And I'll keep these quick so you guys won't be here all day. So my honorable mentions to the honorable mentions, basically my 30 through 26. Dr. Sleep, a movie that I thought was really, really well done, Mike Flanagan. Hotel Mumbai. No one's talking about this movie. It came, it went, I got to see it finally, and I absolutely loved it. How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. A great finale to this trilogy that I love. It holds a special place in my heart. I think this movie is great. Spider-Man Far From Home. You guys know me. I'm a Marvel fan. I'm an MCU shill. Really enjoyed that movie. Thought it was super fun. And The Art of Self-Defense. I'll never forget watching this in an artistic theater downtown. I thought it was a great experience. Very underrated movie this year. Let's get into number 25. And 25 is Fighting With My Family. The shock of the year for me. Well, one of the shocks of the year. But I just didn't expect this to be good, man. This was a movie that I looked at. I saw the trailer. I giggled. I laughed. I said, it could be cute. But for a WWE film that is really this story, a true story of a girl who overcomes and beats all of the odds and makes it in a world that is very difficult to get into. I thought the performances were fantastic. The cameo from The Rock was really great. Vince Vaughn's character is awesome. But Florence Pugh, she is the real, she's the savior for this film. She kills it. The entire cast is great. The relationship between her and her brother. Fighting With My Family. If you haven't seen it, seek it out. It's one of the best of the year. Another one that shocked me and surprised me in the best way, in a movie that, frankly, got buried by A24. You're going to see a lot of A24 movies on here. I love my Marvels, love my DCs, but I also love my artistic films. And they just really didn't know what to do with Under the Silverlake. They didn't know how to market it. They didn't know how to give it a trailer. And I don't blame them, because this movie is wacky, it's crazy, it's Andrew Garfield Murder Mystery 101, but the adventure that he goes on, all of these context clues, beware the dog killer. It's hard to describe this movie. All I'll tell you is this: it's an A24 wacky, crazy mystery movie starring Andrew Garfield that goes in the most unexpected of directions. It took me 2 or 3 watches to get to where I am now, but once I discovered that I really, really love this movie, it's easily in my top 25 of the year, as is a movie that capitalizes on a TV show that I absolutely loved. I talked about this in my best Netflix movies of the year. It's another Netflix film that really shocked and delivered in the vein of Klaus and Dolomite, which are 2 others that came close to cracking this list. This is El Camino, Breaking Bad, like I said, one of my favorite television series of all time. This tells the story of Jesse. Aaron Paul kills it, and it tells his story after the events of Breaking Bad. It is slow-paced. It is a movie that's not going to appeal to everyone. I know Breaking Bad fans who don't love this film, and that's completely understandable because it's not for everyone. It's not the journey, I think, that you anticipate, and really not a lot of action in this movie. But you get those nods, you get those Easter eggs, you get a character study of Jesse, and you get exactly, in my opinion, you get exactly what was needed for his story to wrap up in a beautiful way. So El Camino, Breaking Bad story, in my opinion, really, really good. At 22 is Us. This is the Jordan Peele follow-up to Get Out. I don't love it as much as I love Get Out. Get Out is in the discussion for, like, best of the decade. Us is in the discussion of a great movie in 2019, but it goes no further than that. I know a lot of people who don't love this movie, and I still don't have all of the answers to the questions, I'll be honest with you. And some people are going to say, well, it's just too weird, Austin. I get it. It's a weird film. But I really love the performances. I think Lupita Nyong'o was Oscar-worthy. I just thought she was fantastic in both of these roles. Jordan Peele's direction, the music mixed with the cinematography, it's a very artistic horror thriller, I guess, not necessarily a horror, but the way that it ended, still don't have all the answers, like I said, but I thought it was super entertaining. Speaking of entertainment, one of the best comedies of the year. I'm seeing a lot of people who said this wasn't all that funny, but I disagree. I think Booksmart is hilarious. These two girls together, let me tell you, Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein, two of my favorite performances of the year, one of the best dynamics of the year. Their relationship is hilarious, but the real scene stealer to me in this movie is Billie Lourd. Billie Lourd, Carrie Fisher's daughter, outstanding. She's so funny. She's insane to the highest degree. And Booksmart, it's such a bummer that I didn't get to see this one more time before I made this list, because I feel like it is one that could move up when I see it eventually. Just so you guys know, my lists are changing. My 2017 list is different now than it was when I made that video. Same for 2018. So these will change on Letterboxd, by the way. That's where I keep up with all of these things. But Booksmart, so much fun. Can't wait to see what the rewatchability factor is on this movie. And then comes a film that at one point was in my top 10 of the year. It slowly moved out, and I actually watched again. Didn't like it as much, but I still love Toy Story 4. A shock that it was as good. Like, I knew it would be great, but I didn't know it would be great. I think Toy Story 4 gets close to the level of the trilogy. Now, it's one of the greatest trilogies of all time. These movies are fantastic. A lot of people didn't love what they did with Woody's story. I have friends who told me, Austin, they kind of ruined the character. I disagree with that. I thought what they did was kind of beautiful. I don't love what they did with Buzz, and I missed some of our supporting players in here, but it's a very different Toy Story. It's not a Toy Story that we're used to, but it did feel, it captured the magic of what we love about those other three movies. So Toy Story 4, a really great Pixar sequel in my opinion. Speaking of great sequels, we're just transitioning like crazy. This is John Wick. John Wick Parabellum is fantastic. I believe it was the SAG Awards that did their nominations for stunts, and John Wick 3 was not in that conversation. They put Joker and The Irishman, two movies that I love, in the stunt category over John Wick. The stunt category. Think about that, folks. Ridiculous. Some of the best stunt work I've ever seen, some of the best fight choreography I've ever seen. You can say that about all three of these movies. My one critique of this film is that it does feel similar to the other two movies, but as good as 2019 has been, one of the best years in recent memory, an action movie starring Keanu Reeves is still sticking out to me as one of my favorite movies of the year. That's when you know it's fantastic. In my opinion, I know I feel I'm kind of alone on this, it is my favorite in the trilogy. I just think it does everything right. It takes the story of the first, it takes the action of the second, it combines those two things, and it gave me everything I wanted. A fairly divisive movie, but one that I just honestly think some people are looking past because of those involved with the film, and not necessarily S. Craig Zahler, who I think is a brilliant filmmaker. I've liked or loved all of his films. Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn in this buddy cop situation where they converge on a path towards another set of characters, and this ends up being one of the most intriguing, engaging, fantastic, underrated stories/movies of the entire year. Dragged Across Concrete holds some of the best cinematography I've seen all year, some of the more impacting, entertaining, slow-paced, of course, you expect that with his films, but impactful violence of the year. This is a visceral movie in the craziest way. The way that they focus on characters that don't even matter, but they spend 5 to 10 minutes fleshing out these characters that are going to die right when you get to the end of the building of their storyline. It is a long movie. It's 158 minutes long. It's not a movie that everyone loves. I've seen some people give it like 1 or 2 stars, but if you can look past some of the people involved, if you don't like that kind of thing, look at the movie. Judge it as a film. And I think this movie is brilliant. Shia LaBeouf is freaking great. Then we're going to talk about him again here in just a bit. 2 Shia LaBeouf movies in the honorable mentions. That's impressive. Honey Boy is the first. Honey Boy is such a wonderful movie. Now, out of the two Shia LaBeouf movies, I think this one's actually filmed a bit better. The look of it is great. The relationship between he who is playing his father. So this is basically a telling of how Shia LaBeouf grew up, just with different characters and different names. But you can tell that's what it is. So Shia plays his father in this movie. Noah Jupe plays the youngest version of Shia, and then Lucas Hedges plays the older version of Shia, or as they call him in the movie, Otis. And it's all about that relationship, a father-son dynamic, that kind of relationship that's fleshed. Guys, I can't believe this is where it is on this list. I think this movie is incredible. I really, really do. That's how good 2019 has been. I walked out of this movie blown away. There's no way this isn't in my top 10. Honey Boy is fantastic. Go watch it. If you love Shia LaBeouf, you're going to love this movie. Don't hurt me. I've told you, I'll tell you again, 2019 has been incredible. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. This is a brilliant movie. This is Quentin Tarantino's one of his more entertaining films. I wouldn't say it's his best film, but it's definitely up there. This is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Brad Pitt's performance, Leonardo DiCaprio's performance, Margot Robbie, who wasn't in the movie all that often, and a lot of people didn't love her storyline where that ended up, but I thought it was great, man. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was so much fun, and that's the energy. You just don't get movies with this kind of energy, and I know some people will tell you, well, the third act just goes off the rails, it falls flat. I wanted it to be crazier than it was. I'll be honest with you. I wanted Tarantino to Inglourious Bastards this ending, and sure enough, he did. Maybe a tad bit long, but we're talking positives, and I don't want to give too many negatives. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a great movie. Some people are going to slap my wrist for not having it in my top 10, but guys, what a year. I honestly think Jojo Rabbit has a great shot of winning Best Picture. I do, and I'm not saying it is the best movie of the year by any shape or form, but we're talking comedies. I think this actually may be my favorite comedy. I need to make sure of that on my list. If we're talking films that evoke an emotion in you that you just don't expect during the first 5-10 minutes because you're like, oh, it's a pure comedy. It's just wacky. It's zany. But one, Taika Waititi's performance as Hitler. I just can't believe I'm saying that out loud. It's hilarious. The way he tells the story is brilliant. His filmmaking is awesome. I love the comedy. I love everything about Rebel Wilson's character, and I love everything about Stephen Merchant's character, and these kids are hilarious. Some of the biggest standout performances of the year. Scarlett Johansson, I think, should be nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Everything about this movie works. Jojo Rabbit is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It'll break your heart and make you laugh at the same time. That's what I want in a movie. Oh my goodness, The Peanut Butter Falcon. Where did this movie come from? This was a joy to watch, a joy to experience. Some great filmmaking for first-time directors. Absolutely great. Maybe not as crisp as a Honey Boy, maybe not as slick as some other movies on this list, but the heart in this film is heart that you just don't feel nowadays. Directed by Tyler Nielsen and Michael Schwartz, like I said, first-timers who did what they did with this budget. Shia LaBeouf, another brilliant Shia LaBeouf performance, two this year that have worked so well. But the real standout for me is Zach Gottsagen, who plays Zach in this film. Dakota Johnson's good, but Zach is the character. He's the heart. He's the soul. He's brilliant. He's wonderful. I loved watching this movie. A lot of time, people use crowd pleaser as something to maybe diss a film because it appeals too much to the mass audience. This is a crowd-pleasing movie that is also brilliant at the same time, capitalizes on the script, a tad bit predictable, but The Peanut Butter Falcon, if you ask me, what is one movie that you would recommend to everyone, no hesitation, genre, audience, whatever, I would say The Peanut Butter Falcon. Oh, AK-24. It's just constant with these guys. This movie hit me like a brick. I walked out of Waves just emotionally, not physically, emotionally exhausted because there is so much to this film that just broke me inside, man. The storytelling, how they transition from one perspective to the other, is going to feel very jarring for a lot of people, and I'm seeing the debate online. Is it the first half of Waves or is it the second half of Waves? I honestly slightly prefer the first half, but I am not one of those that's opposed to the second half. I actually like both halves of the movie. And if both halves can come together and work for you simultaneously, then I think Waves is a movie that is really going to affect you. I was just obsessed with the camera movement, the way that it circles our characters. I do think that has a bit of a different meaning and context to it. I don't want to dive into spoilers when it showcases those things through the first, the second, and the third acts. But Kelvin Harrison Jr. having himself a year. Sterling K. Brown was brilliant in this film. I thought the direction was wonderful. Waves is a colorful, vibrant, emotional gut punch Another A24 movie is Midsommar. This film is divisive. I just watched a rant on Facebook, somebody talking about how Midsommar is the worst film of the year, and I'm just sitting back going, did you see The Fanatic and The Haunting of Sharon Tate? But you know what? It's Midsommar. It is divisive, and I understand it's divisive. It is a wacky, crazy, slow-paced A24 horror film. And if that's not your vibe, if that's not what you like in a horror movie, if you're more of a studio jump scare kind of guy, girl, you're not going to like Midsommar. But I do find it interesting. I've seen a lot of general audience members. I was talking to my cousin recently, right? And I'm like, well, did you like Hereditary or Midsommar more? Expecting her to say Hereditary, and she said, no, clearly Midsommar. And I'm like, really? So is this speaking more to a mass audience than something like Hereditary was? I find that debate interesting. I still slightly prefer Hereditary, but obviously Midsommar, I mean, the first 15 minutes of this movie, I think are still, at this point, the most emotional 15 minutes of any movie of the entire year. I also think it's some of the best filmmaking of the year. The fact that Ari Aster is still being looked past as a brilliant filmmaker hurts my soul, and I don't like it. Midsommar is brilliant. It's brilliant. I like it a lot. So I saw this on Twitter, and they said Ford v Ferrari is the best dad movie of 2019. And I thought about it, and it sounded like a negative, but then I realized that he actually meant it as a super positive, and I'm like, yep, you're right. Because I would take my dad to this movie in a heartbeat. My dad would love this film. Didn't get a chance to, but I cannot wait till it comes out on VOD, because I'm watching this puppy again. This was beyond entertaining. So entertaining. The ending will just slap you right in the face. The emotion from this movie conveyed by these characters, Christian Bale, Matt Damon, my goodness. Chemistry off the charts. Just filmmaking, man. This is why I love movies like Logan and Walk the Line. No, this is why I love James Mangold, who is the director of those films, as well as Ford v Ferrari. He's a guy who can make a crowd-pleasing movie, and I say crowd-pleasing again, make a crowd-pleasing movie, one with so much artistic merit, some of the best stunts I've seen all year. That's right, stunt work, people in cars, racing, the way that these scenes were filmed, the sound design in the theater was fantastic. There are so many Oscar-worthy elements in this movie, and some of them I'm afraid people are going to start looking over when it comes to the Academy Awards, and I don't want them to just because it's a majorly crowd-pleasing movie. I do think some are going to scoff at it. I don't want that to be the case with Ford v Ferrari. It is the best dad movie of 2019, but daggone it. I have a dog. Does that count? I'm not a father. Ford v Ferrari is fantastic. I cannot believe it's not in my top 10. Barely missed out. It's number 11. Am I going to regret not putting it in my top 10? Maybe, but we'll see what beat it, the 10 movies that are above it, when my list comes out here in the next couple of days. Thank you guys so much for counting down with me this year, following me on Letterboxd, keeping up. You can spoil yourself if you want to right now and go check out all of the movies I've seen this year. All of them. From 1 to 230-something. They're all on there. They're all ranked and listed. I could still shift a few things around within that top 10, but I think I have my top 10. Like I said, stay tuned for my reviews. I will be ranking every 2019 movie I have left. I will be doing it in that specific video, but as of right now, these are my honorable mentions. These are some of my favorite movies of the year. Most of them on this list I gave 9 out of 10s to, and that's so rare at the end of the year when you're giving 9s for your honorable mentions. I love these films, guys. I need to go take a hot shower because I've sweated myself to death.